The big story in football today is Sheffield Wednesday being placed into administration. They've been hit with an automatic 12-point deduction, puts them on -6 points. But it's kind of a good day, really, overall, in the long run for the club. It's hard to say that, but Dan Fudge, he is host of the EFL Fan Network on talkSPORT and the Wednesday Week podcast. Hiya, Dan. He's popped into the studio to see us. Hello, Dan.
Yeah, my pleasure to be here, Paul. It was only about 6 hours I was here talking to Mr. Ross in the middle of the night.
Well, this story, we knew it. We got wind of it earlier on, and here we are. It's been confirmed by the EFL. Mm-hmm. They're already, Saddam's statue is being dragged down. They're already taking Chansiri's name off of the stand at Hillsborough. He's no longer involved in the club. It's in the hand of the administrators. And although you've lost those 12 points, that kind of is good news. It allows the club to move on, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly that. We lost a serious amount of players back at the end of the season, because if players aren't getting paid, they can essentially hand their notice in, as it were. So they kind of they left. We lost half a squad of decent championship level players, and now we've got a few of those left. So it was always going to be a tough ask to stay in the championship this season. So I think the fans were already resigned to League One football anyway. And let's be honest, we had a good time in League One. It'd be nice to have something to cheer about again. Albeit I don't fancy another 4-0 drubbing in the first leg of a playoff final. You know what I mean? But yeah, we went up. We got to a decent place. But because the fans were already ready for that, we were already mentally prepared. This seems like good news, even though the bitter sting of it, the worst bit about it is that local suppliers are going to get things like 25 pence in a pound and things such as that. Yeah. But I think what we're perceiving it as is that there's light at the end of the tunnel, which can only be good news to some extent, if that makes sense. And
you just hope that the administrators, well, I'm sure they will be a lot easier to deal with, because it's their job to effectively find a buyer. But we've spoken to John McClure from Reverend and the Makers, and John was involved in a consortium, had conversations with Chansiri and his people, and just couldn't get anywhere. Just couldn't really get any answers. But, it's changed now, isn't it? We've got people whose job it is to basically find a new owner for the club, and whether John's guys get involved or not, there are some interested parties, we're told.
Yeah, there's been a number of interested parties right back since the beginning of this year, and over the last few years. But Chansiri has been notoriously difficult to deal with. For example, there was one consortium from Florida that put some money together, and they offered £40 million, £50 million, and then he'll meet them at the table, and then 2 days later, a week later, it's gone up to £100 million, and it's becoming. It became a circus, and there was an element of spite behind it. You know what I mean? There was an element of no one's going to tell me what to do. I'd rather sell this ground to a supermarket and make some money that way, and things like that. And then there was, there's been a whole litany of mismanagement that's gone off. And one of the big questions that came out when this administration was announced this morning was what happens to the ground. Because, I don't know if you guys remember, about 4 or 5 years ago, we sold it to ourselves at a highly inflated price. We got caught cheating and ended up getting relegated, essentially. What's happened is, as well, though, to reassure any Sheffield Wednesday fans listening, that the company that owns the stadium, as it were, is called Sheffield 3. That is also part of this administration process. They've also gone into admin. So anybody going forward to buy the club will take the ground as well, because obviously that's obviously a question that people are going to be asking.
Of course, yeah.
We hear a lot about the regulator and it's coming in. Would he have made a difference? Would they have made a difference in this?
There's part of me that's a little bit, relieved that it didn't go to the regulator, because we saw all the interviews that were going out last week, and they were a little bit toothless. Work alongside. What we want is somebody coming in with pitchforks and talks, go, right, get out, see you later. You can chuck your golden elephants in the Don, and you can go in after them. You know what I mean? But now we've gone into this more aggressive stance, this more aggressive nature, and we know what admin can bring in terms of going forward. This is a well-proven track, as opposed to this unproven, potentially drawn-out process that the IFR would have brought in.
Now, they've had to support a boycott, but obviously it'll be in the interests of fans to get behind the team, and I think that will be the case now, and it will start hopefully to see the crowd's coming back to Hillsborough.
Do you know what? I can't wait. There was this wonderful video. One of the first protests that took place was tennis balls onto the pitch, and that was Middlesbrough 2 years ago. And then we played Middlesbrough on Wednesday night, and it was just this empty, desolate. And all of a sudden, those blue seats that I know really familiar, really well, seemed dead cold.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And the stark difference. It was a Middlesbrough fan that took the video from the away end, and it'd be nice to get people back into the ground. And today, we've been on this No Pound in the Ground initiative that's been put forward by the Supporters Trust. That I bet they're happy that something's gone off. I think I spoke here last week about their missuses not being very happy with the amount of time they're spending on these on Sheffield Wednesday and its off-field issues. But we've had a load of photos today of people back in the shop spending money, in order to try and make sure that these people who work, the non-playing staff, are getting paid and things like that. We're having people buying 4 or 5 football jerseys at a time and things such as that, which is, I've had my eye on this top for about 6 months, so I can't wait to get up there if I'm on.
So whoever comes in and knows, with -6 points, barring a miracle, they're going to be taking on a League One club, aren't they, really?
Yeah.
But with great potential, with a massive fan base and a big stadium and lots of opportunities, hopefully.
Absolutely. There's going to be a few people coming to kick the tyres. Of course there are. Something like this and something with a fan base such as ours can bring what you'd call a vulture and things such as that. But I feel like the administrators, that's what they're for. They're there to separate the... I was going to say a rude word there, but separate the bits from the other bits, and I feel like we have to trust them, right, to find the right person. I'm excited to see what the future's going to bring. We're mentally ready for League One football. All we can do now is support the guys on the field, because Henrik Pedersen has taken on an impossible task this season. Why he even signed those documents to become our head coach was, beggars belief. But the players aren't under any scrutiny, and we are absolutely threadbare on the pitch right now as well. We keep bringing through these young players, and a surgery on Gisi Kira, who came in and was in part of that win against Leeds in the Carling Cup in old money. In the
Carroll,
League Cup. Yeah. And then we had Ernie Weaver that was looking like he was going to have an elongated period in the first team. He's gone under the knife. And then George Brown, who scored a couple of goals, 19 years old, scored against Portsmouth. He's gone he's suffering with an injury as well. So we are threadbare right now, and there's no pressure on these players on the pitch. So we may go down with a whimper, but I tell you what, we're going to have a good time doing it.
Yeah, well, let's hope it is a turning point.
Better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's going to be key. Dan, thanks for popping in. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Dan Fudge there from the FL Fan Network on talkSPORT and the Wednesday Week podcast. When you got a new podcast coming out to talk about this, I think.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be going online tonight talking about this, and I'm going to be. You're going to get used to seeing me, everybody. So I'm going to be everywhere.
Good luck. All the best. Cheers.
Thank you.